Hey lovebirds, you already know the deal. I love love and everything about it. And I love the fact that you have taken some time out of your day to join us with another episode of Love in the Details. And today we got a couple of friends of mine that are also podcasters. And if you can tell, this is their humble abode on where they record their episodes. So today we have Melendia and we have Charles from Just Keeping It Real podcast. So I'll drop their link to their page below in the description so you can check out their conversations as well. But today we're going to learn about their story. So guys, again, thank you so much for the invite and the hospitality. It was definitely fun being on your podcast recently as well. We'll drop the link to that too.
Yeah.
But today, I really wanted to sit down with you guys because number one, you just recently celebrated 40 years of marriage.
Yes.
47 of being together.
Yep.
Take notes.
Yes.
What's always important in every conversation that I have with my guest is definitely your beginning. Mm-hmm. How did you guys meet?
So let's say from my perspective.
Yes.
And I'm from Baltimorean guys, okay?
All right.
So we used to come down every year for our gathering and family reunion.
All right.
My mother's is from my mother and her parents. They're from Rock Hill, South Carolina. So we come down every year. The year of 1978, we came, and my cousins wanted us to come to this yard party or park party after the reunion, just to hang out, dance and everything. So I'm a dancer.
Okay.
Oh no, that don't sound right. I love to dance.
All right.
Marilyn in my young days. Okay, that's one that was back.
Right.
I like to dance at parties and stuff. That still don't sound right though, but anyway, I enjoy dancing, and that year they had the music and we were out and dancing and everything, and I could dance by myself, but I had cousins and everything, and we were out dancing and out in this field yard park. Mm-hmm. And I went to run over to my cousin at the time and asked him, I guess we were about ready to go, or I came over to say something to him or whatever. And then it was a last dance song, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. But I think I may be getting this kind of twisted, but it was two songs, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Ring My Bell. Those were two Anita Ward, those songs, and I got out there and I was dancing. Loved that song. And then when it stopped and I was ready to go, and I asked my cousin to walk me to the car. I can't remember why I asked him that, because I was not driving, but anyway, I don't know. And then I heard this guy said, I can walk you to the car, something like that. And I'm looking at this guy like, he had that kind of feel to me. And that was the beginning of how we met.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So, Charles, what was your vantage point of that story and interaction?
Okay, well, it was in June 23rd, Friday night, 1978.
And they say that men don't remember the date.
Yeah, hey, we're gonna change that narrative tonight.
There we go.
So in my hometown, Rock Hill, in a park, Freedom Park, as we call it, it's spelled different, but anyway, they had dances. We're going from the Soul Train era to disco era. They did, and the DJs did Tuesday nights, Friday nights. And I decided to go out that night. I wanted to go to it was walking distance, but I drove.
Okay.
Anyway, so had my sister do my S curl that night, and I had my little collarless shirt, and I think I had my blazer on and my slacks. I did not wear jeans during times, and I went out and I made sure I dressed well that night. Went out, and as I walked out to the park, I saw my cousin, the late Charlie Brown, Tommy Curitan's name. aka Charlie Brown, they call him. I saw him out. So they were dancers from kids, you know. I was always ashamed to dance, but when Soul Train came out, that gave me a new confidence. And it was Soul Train was leaving, disco was coming in.
Got it.
And Charlie Brown stayed with dancing, and he had won 2. So I spotted him and asked him about, you know, the dancing. He said, look, 1-2 contest. He said, but if I can only have one partner that we're learning routines with, and I don't have to switch up each time. And I said, okay, well, I said, I'm going to help you find a partner. So we were looking and scanning the dance floor, and it was the Anita Ward's Ring My Bell. And we had a certain dance we did in my hometown. So, and I'm looking, and I spot this young lady. She was attractive. And I'm saying, wait a minute, that's different. That's a different twist to the dance. And I said, cuz, what about her? I said, I don't think she's from here. And my cousin said, nah, from the other side of town, uppity. Mom let her out. She's showing up. I said, cuz, I don't think so. I believe out of town, but we don't dance like that. So I said, I tell you what, let's make a bet. Guaranteed she's out of town. And we bet, and then all of a sudden, the dance was over with, and I saw her walk over to this brother, and they called for the last dance, which you mentioned, MJ, don't stop till you get enough. She went back on the dance floor, and the guy that she went over to was one of my schoolmates. Okay. So in that time, we had graduated high school, used to ride his bus, we were in ROTC together and all that, and I said, ooh, my boy. So I said, let me go over here. I say, okay, this is easy. This is easy right here. I walked on over, and I told cousin, I said, I'm going to find out. I walked over, and I said, hey, Junebug, what's up, man? And he said, hey, man, what's going on? Hey, I saw your old girl. And I said, hey, bro, later for that. I want to know who this is. So, and he said, well, she told me y'all friends. I said, okay, yeah. Who is this lady? And he says, my cousin from Baltimore. And I said, hey, gotta introduce me, bro. And so that was it. And I was sitting there waiting on. And when the last song was over, she walked over to her cousin. Hey, Junebug, walk me to the car. That was my clue. I said, hey, lady, I'll walk you to the car. So I got to hear him introduce her. And by that time, he said, hey, this is, my boy here, school. This is my cousin from Baltimore. And we talked and walked through the park as people were leaving. And I, like I said, didn't have the best intentions. Because at one point, the vehicle I had was a van. Mm-hmm. With curtains and all that stuff. And I walked and I got close to it. And I said, hey, you see that van over there? I said, it's mine.
Mr. Smooth operator.
Yeah, but bad intentions, bro. So, don't judge a brother. I said, God had to work on my heart. But anyway, that was our first meeting. And then we didn't exchange, didn't get a number, didn't get anything from her. I knew she was out of town, from out of town. And I just, it was just it,
Okay.
So we left that night, walked into the car, and I said, hey, nice meeting you. That was it.
Nice.
So next day, though, cousin came to my parents' store where we had a store in our yard, and he pulled in and he had a piece of paper in his hand. He said, hey, man, my cousin wants you to give her a call. And that was the thing. So I said, really? Come on, man. I said, you don't want me to call. And that's why I grabbed it. We had a paper. So I called, but we missed each other a few times.
Okay.
And finally did reach each other. And things kind of, the beginning of confusion, I guess. Yeah. So we didn't get to see each other before she left. Mm. And that was, it was disappointment in that too. But yeah.
So I guess, Melendia, what was, at least your thought process after the interaction the night before on what actually either, like this young man, thought he was attractive, whatever the case may be, because again, this is well before cell phones, right? But also, the phone number was very, very important, right? It almost became sacred, during those times. So what was your thought process on, all right, he's worthy enough to get my phone number?
I was young, but he was different a little bit to me. His mannerism was different. He seemed, it was a little peculiar to me. And then I thought, maybe I can have a nice pen pal, guy that I can communicate with, from Maryland, and we can write every now and then, maybe talk on the phone whenever we can. But it's just something like I said, his courtesy, his attention, as a young girl, not really seeing that attention a guy would give, open doors, saying, looking at you with, I didn't know that he had that kind of intent, but
What kind of intent?
From that's kind. I didn't know it was gonna go really anywhere.
Right.
But I wanted to get to know him. At least I was like, well, when we come back next year, because like I said, we come every year.
Okay.
We was coming every year until we start going to different states. But I was like, maybe next year, I'll get to see you, or you can come to my family reunion and meet some of my people, meet my mom or something. Because I just thought he just had a really good. I don't know. It was just soul about him. It just seemed really genuine to me as far as being a good friend. Seeing somebody it's a good friend. And then I did think he was very attractive to me, and then that mattered then as much to me. And the Michael Jackson appearance kind of look, because everybody loved the original Michael.
Yes, yes. Big time, especially during that time frame.
Yes, right. So that kind of spiked my interest more of when I saw him from the park, and then I told my cousin to give him a number. I thought, it's kind of cute. I like to keep in touch with him. That's kind of, what happened. And, we had a couple of fumbles where we was trying to see each other. My fault, because I was hanging out with cousins. But where we didn't get to see each other before I left. And I don't even remember how long it was before we saw each other again.
Oh, okay.
But that spiked the pen pal conversation where we started writing each other back and forth and sending pictures of each other, and he even sent me like a teddy bear or something at one time. It was just a thing that I just didn't see at home, and where somebody was really interested in me, and
especially on a different level.
Level, and he just seemed really genuine, and that mannerism was pure for me.
Right. And now, Charles, for you, getting the phone number, understanding how important that is to I guess getting in the good graces with a young lady. Sharing that, but just from your vantage point of understanding, like, all right, she's different, right? What was your thought process on how you realized that you needed to approach this differently?
As I mentioned, I had just been out of a relationship from high school, and at the time I was not thinking about relationships again, because as I mentioned to her, this is a young lady I hands down knew that I would be married, at some point. Wasn't ready for marriage yet, too young, wanted to get career, and I just knew that was going to happen. But after a conversation,
talking about the other person.
Yeah, the other person. After that conversation,
right.
I just say this is not it, because it wasn't on the same level when it had to do with a spiritual basis. I wasn't there spiritually, but I know, Lord, I'm coming to you. I'm acting a fool right now, but I'm coming to you eventually. See, that's where I was, and I knew that. And then when it didn't align, I just say, okay, let's just be friends and move on. I said, no more relationship right now. Forget it. This is about career. And that day, I just figured, hey, we'll talk. Let's just see where it goes. So it was nothing serious there. Then the next day we were supposed to, that evening, Sunday evening, that was Saturday, met you Friday, Saturday you had your family reunion. We talked on a Sunday night. She was going to be leaving that Monday. So we arranged, she asked me to come down. I went down to see her. And it was a long drive down a long highway. That's 901 out here. And it's just so ironic. I drove and burned my van up getting out there. When I got there, her grandfather came to the door and said, she's not here. And I was like, wait a minute. I just talked to her, on the phone. And I thought she was playing games there. He said, no, she went with the uncle. She should be back. And I waited. And I drove back. I burned my van up going back home because I was angry by this time.
Right.
And I got back, got in bed. and she called and said, "Hey, are you coming?" And I said, "Wait a minute, your grandfather didn't tell you I came?" And so she said, "Well, can you come back? I want to see you before I leave." And I just told her, I said, "I think she's trying to play games with me. I don't have time for it." And I said, "No, ma'am, I won't be back." And she said, "I won't get to see you before you leave." I said, "I guess not." So I was thinking that she's playing the country boy. I ain't got time for it.
Right.
So I was short on it. Didn't take it serious. And you left and you came back, I think maybe a few months or so. It wasn't long. It wasn't long. We had our first date. And I went. She told me what street I was going down, did not see the house. I kept driving round and round, and I said, "Here we go again." She's playing that game.
Right.
And I said, "I'm about to be done with this young lady." And she said, "Wait a minute, let you talk to my cousin." They said, "Well, did you go all the way around?" I said, "No, I stopped when I saw the pavement." I said, "It's a dirt road." "No, keep driving." And finally, I went and picked her up. We went on our first date to the movie. It was a late movie, the karate flick we did. And then went to Burger King afterwards, had our meal. And then I took her to downtown area. We were on the city hall, just looking over the stars. And I took my jacket off and put it over. It's a little cool that night. And we talked a little bit. And I think that was the start of possibilities then. And I said, maybe this could be something. Okay. This could be the one, at some point. So, and I think that was it. Writing letters for the years we did, gosh, and just, you mentioned I sent you a teddy bear. I think that was for, it was Valentine's Day. And what I did, I called her late sister, and I used to tell her what I was gonna do before I did. I said, "Listen, I'm gonna send her a teddy bear. I'm letting her know that I have a friend coming to see her named Theodore."
Yes.
and I said, "Theodore will be here to see her." I said, "I want you to meet Theodore." And that was a teddy, there. Wow. So, and I called her, I said, "Hey, did he come? He should be coming today." And I said, "Yeah, he mentioned he was going to come by and meet you." And that was teddy bear. I sent her a teddy bear, a little heart bear.
So that's, it's just different. Yeah. That kind of thing. And I think I came down in December or something, because I don't know if somebody passed or something happened. Normally I would only come once a year.
Right. Okay.
So I came down in December because it was kind of cold.
It was a little cool. I remember when you came down. Yeah.
I think that's what it happened.
Yeah. So first date, it was good, and I said, and I said, we probably can do something here.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty dope of even just hearing both of you just kind of recollect. A little bit of that time frame, because I think we probably all need to do that a little bit more.
Yes,
thinking back of the beginnings, right? But something that you both mentioned is the pen pal, right? How important was that? Because I think number one, it was given opportunities to bond. That was an ideal form of communication back then. How did that strengthen, you guys' friendship during that time?
Very much so. It's just like, I think we learned more about each other, through the letters, through the things. I saw how she thought, how she felt about things. And I learned how she felt about me. And it was to a point where she expressed, her love, towards me. Over time. Not just right on.
Right.
Where I learned, and I'm thinking, like, this young lady don't mind expressing how she feels. And I say, in the bed, I hadn't had any of that openness, part of expressing how you feel. To me, that was different because I never really did that either. Because my thing was, especially as a guy, you don't tell women you love her and this kind of stuff. You don't do that, express no emotion. It's about just hard, bam. That's the way things work. And she helped me find that side, more or less that vulnerable side there. And we learn more about each other through that. Very important, very important.
And Melendia, what about your vantage point?
Absolutely. I mean, I saw things and was being able to connect the things that something I really desired, like I knew, I had my sister who was living at the time, and her issues with relationships, and my mom was a single parent,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't really have that
Example.
example, really.
Mm-hmm.
I saw like my dearest best friend. I saw her family.
Mm-hmm.
But we were both still young, but something we used to sit around and always talk about.
Mm.
How we would love to have someone that was special to us and that treated us certain ways. We, as kids, you also talk about what was the name of your kid's going to be, and then we would even say who the father would be, who would the husband be. And being younger, and I was like, we always used to say South Kakalaki. That's what we call him. I was like, I like that Southern man. That South Kakalaki would be my husband. That was then, not even, but the penmanship, the being able to talk through letters, it was more transparent and honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's missing so much today.
Right.
But that's kind of how I looked at being able to saying that I think that this could go somewhere, because I see someone totally different than what I was used to seeing, and even what was being approached to me.
Right.
Then it was, he may have had intentions, but his intentions were maybe a little different.
Right.
They weren't as the way that I was used to seeing.
Right.
And he treated me like somebody he was pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
It was like he really was wanting to get to know me and to know the me,
Yes.
not the body me, just the me, even though that's the way he presented it. It might have been, with some intention, but
Pray for him. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I think that's awesome to just hear, even just the evolution of that, from your first meet till that point, right? So now as we kind of fast forward just a little bit, what was the approach to saying, like, what, this friendship has been, pretty dope. I enjoy the person that I'm getting to learn, that I'm eventually getting to the point of having love for, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the transition or the exaltation of the relationship from now friendship to an actual relationship? Charles, for you, what did that start to feel like from a male perspective, that, all right, I want to focus on this young lady?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say miseducation.
Mm.
And I want to say this because during the time, I think we had talked about serious relationship at one point. I tell you, no, I'm not ready for it. And I don't think either one of us were ready for it. And again, as you remember my prayer, Lord, help me. I want to eventually get there, but I'm like a fool right now. I know I am. Just help me get there, Lord. Please, just don't leave me out there. That was a serious prayer. The misconception was this, and I say this, as a man and a young man growing up, I wasn't taught purity, doing things the way God wanted us to do them. It was this, hey, bro, get all you can, bro. You better, it was that lie, okay? And I followed behind that. And at one point, plus I was in a band, so I was a lead singer in the band. And some of that became so simple. It became so easy in dealing. And at one point I said, gosh, man, who are you trying to prove something to? What are you doing? And that thing, I just kind of had a self-conversation and said, Lord, I'm not doing what you want me to do. I've been playing this game. Now I need to take life serious and stop the game playing. And I decided, I said, you know what? If I were to take the next step, I believe that I would do that with this woman here. I say, truly, that's the woman I want to do that with. And I said, Lord, help me get there. Help me get there, And so we talked about her moving to the Carolinas for her college. So it was either here in Rock. At the time, I was in Winston-Salem because I had taken a job after graduating from tech school. I was in Winston. So I said either Rock Hill, either Winston-Salem. And so we were looking at schools, and Winthrop was one of the schools. Salem College there was a female, all women's college. And then there was Winston-Salem State. And we looked at all three, got information, and we pursued Winston-Salem State. And at the time, that's where she got in at, and she moved to Winston-Salem at the time. And that's when we started to, get serious about our relationship, and then kind of looking at business or how are we going to pursue it. So that was, and that happened around 82, I think it was, 1982. So from 78 to 82, that we're thinking. So it took some years. Because like I said, bro, we were too young. We were too young to even be thinking about a marriage and that stuff. And that was.
But I think keeping that going for 4 years, I feel that you can't just gloss over that, because that's a lot of intention,
yes.
For both of you. So Melinda, before I get to your vantage point on that transition, right? Charles just mentioned, and he said it, we looking into schools. From your perspective and what you could remember, how did that make you feel that he was so bought into where you went to school, and not because of the benefit for him, but because he cared about where you went for you?
And see, that's one of the characteristics I was talking about, as far as he had always intertwined what we could do together. It's like, I've always been like, I'll be adventurous. We talk about moving, what we could do. How does this look if you came down and see how we can develop this relationship? So to answer your question, I mean, just knowing that it's not a selfish,
yes.
Way of looking at it. He was really concerned about my well-being. I was in college, my first year in college at home, when we started talking about what can we do together? What does this look like for us?
Right.
Now, I can't go verbatim about what we said in conversation. I just know that we were talking about us. He was including me and being in that vicinity with him.
Right.
And what do you think about it? And all in all, he had been talking to my sister, wanted to probably talk to my mom eventually. And my mom was always like, I'm mama's girl, baby girl, just like, you ain't going nowhere. I can't take care of you all the way down there. What you doing, I just don't know. Until the day I got on that Greyhound bus with Teddy.
Teddy made the trip too.
We have a picture that we still have today with Teddy and me standing there in that Greyhound bus. My mom dropped me off, and she's just like, "You'll be back. You'll come back home." But just knowing that I was going, and we talked about schools, and he learned what I liked and what I didn't like. I did not want to be in a school with all girls. I did not want to be in South Carolina. And because I was feeling like, well, if you're in North Carolina, I don't want to be in South Carolina.
Right.
And then I didn't want to live in Rock Hill, but never say what you never want to do.
Right. Never say never.
For years he said it.
Look at us now.
Right.
But that was special. That was really special to me because he knew. And then I really connected to Winston-Salem State. It was really, he knew that was probably my field. Because he knew more about me through the village.
Lovebirds, if you're ready to take your business to the next level and grow smarter, check out Go High Level. It's an all-in-one platform for marketing, sales, and automation, saving you time while boosting results. Hit the link in the description box below and take your business to the next level. Now back to the details. And I think, sometimes we all can forget how important it is about just learning one another, right? During that dating, or actually no, for you guys, it started with friendship, right? So now, actually going back to the question that I asked Charles, what was it like for you from your vantage point of the shift from, being friends, being pen pals to now, like, this is somebody I want to focus on from a relationship?
When I moved to North Carolina, I still wasn't sure, even though, and I felt that I had a safety net because I had family in Rock Hill, just in case if he wanted to act up or I wanted to act whatever. So I still wasn't mature enough to have an idea of what a total relationship would look like because of examples, but I knew what I wanted, and he had what I wanted. So once I came to North Carolina, he learned even a little bit more about me, because now he knew that this girl crazy.
Thank you. I get early. So when you mentioned about the transition, you
there's some things that he saw about me that he was just like, I could be a firecracker. I spoke my word, I said what I said, and I'll say it again, and he could be standing right there, and I still say what I said.
And it also shows the variations of cultures, right? Because even though it's only a couple states away, it's very different of how the South, South Carolina is versus what Baltimore, Maryland area was as far as mannerisms and such, right? So I guess, Charles, for you, what did you learn about yourself going through that process of now? You have your lady much closer to you now. You're getting that opportunity to now, instead of writing and being on the phone, a lot of your interactions are in person. What did you learn about yourself, going through that transition as well?
Well, I learned that at the time I was kind of struggling with some things there too, and it was the fact of, how do we do this? Meaning I want to do it the right way per se. And then there again, I was still at the time struggling with some of the worldly things, worldly, fleshly things. I was going through a struggle because I wanted to do things right, but there again, I'm saying, Lord, I'm coming to you now. You're just gonna have to be patient with her, brother. And especially when she came down, we got involved in with each other. And I'm gonna say we were in a living situation, and it was something I said I would never do. So I learned that at times about myself that I had approached my desires more so than doing things the right way. I did that for a minute, and then I said, Lord, I've got to be true to you, because times I'll ask you to perform or do certain things for me. If you do this, Lord, I'll do this.
Right.
And the Lord will come through. True. And to me, I learned myself with that, said, Charles, you're not being real with God. And till we eventually got there. Yeah. And about her, I learned just like with again the culture differences. And I know at school, she made a name for herself when she came at school. I'm gonna tell you now. Doing registration, my wife was very feisty. Okay, and at the time we were. It's a young lady. I think she felt like, the Carolina people, this and that, and she upset so many people with how she acted. They would call the next station that she had to go to and say, you got one coming. And they were already prepared. It made things so difficult. And I'm learning, like, we can't go through life like this. We got to do things differently. We got to calm it down. So, but the thing about it, maturity stepped in, because years later, she ended up working with these people that saw her, and they were like, wow, you made an awesome change. And then they were, and I said, thank the Lord. She was embarrassing me, bro. I'll tell you a few times. Yeah, she embarrassed her brother several times with that, but it's all good.
But it's still a learning curve, right? Yeah. Because I think when you have those opportunities to see that that person, because none of us are, right? But I think understanding the things that you know that you'll be willing to compromise, right? Because I think compromise is something that has a negative connotation, right? But in my opinion, when you compromise, you're learning more about your partner. You're putting yourself in their world, right? So Melendia, you know, what was that transition like for you? Now, you know, number one, with yourself on, you know, learning more about yourself, being away from home, being somewhere totally new, but now being near Charles instead of the pen paling and the phone calls. What was that like for you as an individual?
At first it was rough. It was rough because, you know, I've always been raised and felt to be independent.
Okay.
You know, I can do this. I don't need no man. You know, my mom was my example of that. You can do that. My sister, who had, you know, 2 sons, with the help of my mom and us, we could do this. So, but that wasn't always a great advantage point to a relationship, you know, because it was trust issues for me. It was, you know, even raised up in the areas of where I was raised up, you know, you had to protect yourself. You had to protect your family. So it was rough in the means of him, looking at him wanting to help support me. You know, just like, you know, that it's kind of like, I don't want that, but I really appreciate that. You know,
it was unfamiliar territory.
It was. But, and then knowing that he was genuinely, just genuine, you know, about it. You know, he helped me get a car. You know, we were talking about combining finances, even though we were doing.
But before that, when she came down, I lost my job.
Yeah.
And the point of her coming down.
Yeah.
So that financing thing ended. I lost my job after 2 years. We had already had things in the play. I was out of work when she came down.
Yes.
I had lost my job, brother.
So on top of me being new into this thing, and we had already been, you know, pen pals for 4 years, then I get here and he moves back to Rock Hill.
Well, no, I didn't move back right away. I was here for a little bit.
Yeah.
Wasn't working.
Right.
And it was
but
like,
you know
I
what the
expected.
thing is, though, and I'm going to say, it didn't skip a beat with whatever I needed.
We struggled a little bit.
I may not have seen the struggle as much as he may have been going through. Because I worked, you know, and went to school, you know. So I think it's just something that he was managing. I knew that he, you know, had lost his job and everything, and prayerfully was hoping that he, you know, find something. But speeding up, you know, he wound up having to come back home.
Yeah, to move back.
And, you know, here I'm left on a college campus, still young. And we hadn't made a solid, like, we were committed, but yet I was still like, okay, he's gone. You know, you know, it's just like, I don't know if he's there doing whatever, and you know, we're always gonna be friends and whatever. It still wasn't that total mature thought process. So, you know, you did little silly stuff when you were in college in a way, but when the total shift, he came back. You know, he got his job and came back, and I just saw, for both of us, how we were committed to that relationship. Regardless, he was there, I was here, we did this when I was in Baltimore. Then all of a sudden you know, you go to South Carolina, but when we came back together, and time went on, and he got more, he was drawn to the Lord first. I was his tempter. Line out. I said I was feisty. He liked that feistiness about me, though. But I saw how committed and sincere he was with his relationship with God. And then I was like, life is so short with God. I don't want to lose this man. At one time, I was thinking, I still want to have fun, you know, not understanding you can still have fun, you know. But, you know, once he was an example for me, you know. and thinking about the foolish things that, you know, I might have been out there hanging out with friends that I got to meet and whatever, and, you know, this and that on a college campus. When that's when he came back, and I'm trying to think, did we move in and then we didn't? I can't quite get
we were, I think we ended up back at the first apartment, and then we ended up getting a space together. And then from there, we were talking more serious about getting married, you know, or having those conversations, because at one point we sat down, we went to a park, just sat down and talked about it. And I'm just thinking, is she wife material, you know, at the time? Do we want to go that far?
Right.
And the conversations yielded a no, period. Because she was talking about, you know, I'm young, I want to finish school, and I just said, want to do this, that, and that. I still want to go to the club, I still want to do this, and I said, and at one point I said, maybe I am unfair, you know, thinking wife, and she's not ready for that. Right. So I said, I would be unfair to hold her and stop her from that. And I just say, so maybe this is not it. And so at the time I was praying about it and said, Lord, I don't think this is it. So I say, to be respectful and to be true, I would be wrong to hold her for something she's not ready for.
Right.
So and I was willing to walk away from our relationship with that, as far as that was concerned, and to be fair to her. And the Lord spoke to me, Charles, she will make you a great wife. And I was like, Lord, I feel you. I don't know. That's kind of the way I felt. So the Lord put in my spirit, said, she's going to make you a great wife. And so from there, patient, and you know, with that, and it came together.
Well, we went through a couple of things. I moved out.
A little breakup,
and stayed on campus. Stayed with a good friend of
my old roommate.
We had girlfriend, which is now a wife. I stayed with her, you know, until, you know, I kind of start thinking about, okay, what do I really want to make an impact on? Yes, I set a precedent at WSSU, and I still did even later on, but in a different, more mature aspect. They still knew I was spicy, feisty, but in a different way, because I was looking at students coming in.
Right.
With some of that same stuff that I was bringing. And I was like, no, boo.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I know where you've been.
Yep.
So come on. Yep. So,
no, not to, because there you became a mentor. Right. Say, from the thing, and she was a mentor to a lot of those people coming in, and you know, you dealt with memorabilia, you know, a lot of the things that she was helping them with and helping them get together. So God turned that thing around.
But that's speeding up.
Go ahead.
That's speeding up because we were married.
Yeah, right. We were married.
We were married when I went there. But the back to when we said, okay, this is what we really want to do, and we both had our relationship with Christ individually. That's why when we talk about knowing the foundation and starting off in any relationship, know who you are first, and what your foundation is about. Get that ground first, and that is to build that relationship with Christ, so you'll know you have something to contribute to whoever God bless you with. So, you know, once we got there, still young, because when we got married, I was 21.
I was 24, going 25.
So we still were young. Yeah. And but we learned even through being younger and married that, you know, you still, that first 5 years, first 10 years, as we say, that's the roughest, because now we are in this thing. We are in this, and we are totally knowing how we are in it. And I mean, I couldn't have been more obedient than to just yield to what was purposefully meant for both of us.
I love that. You know, because there's so many gems in there. I'll definitely touch on that, you know, later on in our conversation. But the biggest, you know, at least for me, the biggest takeaway is understanding yourself first, right? I think that tends to get missed when we are kind of in that stage where, you either want a relationship, you want to be married, whatever it is, that companionship thought process can sometimes drown out, who you are as an individual. And I think there are some people that even think that when you get married or you're thinking about, some type of partnership with someone for a long period of time, they think that they have to lose themselves or they will lose themselves, right? But I think you guys just illustrated that that does not need to happen, right? So now we fast forward a little bit because both of you just mentioned a period of getting married, right? What does it actually look like as far as, at least Charles, we'll start with you, of getting to the point of asking for her hand and then going through and following through to the actual wedding day.
Well, getting there was the thing, because it was, for me, I desired to be a husband, desired a wife, but I was always kind of afraid to do that or initiate to a degree, because I used to ask ask myself questions. Are you gonna be true to one woman? Can you do that? The things you've been taught, can you do that? Can you be faithful? I was always afraid of doing that. And I just said, Lord, I don't know whether I can do it or not. Lord, So it took us a minute, but then as we were in our living situation, I had a brother talking to me about repentance. And he shared some things with me about doing it God's way. And for me, that was where I say, Lord, I've been telling you all this time that if you do this for me, I'm coming to you. And I say, it's time. And at one point we broke up. And during the time of breakup, I said, Lord, I'll come to you. If you get me out of this living situation, I'll come to you. Lord, that's what my weakness is. Lord, if you do it, I'll come to you. I kept saying that. Then we broke up. And one day I was sitting in my apartment and they came to me. I said, Lord, I got a car, got an apartment, got a decent job. And I said, but one thing I don't have, and I don't have you. And I say, I've lied to you all this time, saying if you do this, if you get my job back, Lord, I'll come to you. I've been saying that for years. Lord, I've lied to you every time. And I say, right now, I have nothing. And I say, so I'm coming to you. You make it happen. Lord, bring me to you. That's what I said. And during the time, I know you didn't care for my friend just come to the apartment, talk about repentance and talk about, she did not like that. Because that I was being receptive to the brother. And I told her at one point, I said, listen, if we're going to do things right, we got to do it God's way, and we got to stop what we're doing. And I said, I've tried this several times, I failed every time at it. I believe God is calling us to this. We've got to do it, and I've got to follow God's lead with it. And I say, so with this, we cannot continue what we're doing. And I say, even the living situation, we cannot sleep in the same bed. We cannot do any of that. And so that went on to end up with the breakup finally. And I say, after that breakup thing came, I just say, hey, if you would, I'm going to need my key back as well. It became cold to a degree. But I just say, I don't know what you need the Lord. I need the Lord. And I say, and if that happens and we come together again, so be it. God bless you. But if not, just know that you need the Lord, because I'm going to be working on that for myself. And it just so happened that we stayed concerned for each other and we're still there for each other. And then it happened when it was a summer, she didn't go home. She stayed in town and worked. And I think you had no place to stay. And from there, I said, listen, you can stay here for the summer, but we got to do things differently. Cannot be the same way it were. I don't want to see anything to tempt me to be there. We're going to have to do it totally different at this point, because I said, I want to get my life together and give my life to the Lord. So we were going through it. We did. The thing that changed me, my perspective was this. We went to church, and I have to say, Pastor John Miller. He knew we were in that situation, but I told him we were not involved with doing things. And I said, I kind of refrain from holding hands or doing anything, because at this point I know what it leads to.
Yeah.
So he said, well, let me say this much. I understand that's all right, but what if somebody on the outside looking at you and they see you and that woman in that place, them doors closed? You can't tell them you ain't doing nothing. Bible says, abstain from the appearance. And I said, okay. And he said, listen, do you care about this young lady? I said, yes, sir. He said, do you want to marry her? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, well, what you gonna do? And when he put it on the line for me like that, I looked at him, I said, I'm gonna marry her. That's what I said. I'm gonna do it. That, when him put me on the spot, that's the catalyst. That's what took me over. And I say, hey, okay, if we want to do this, let's work together. And let's do this thing. Let's give our lives to the Lord, and let's follow his lead together, because we got to be on the same page. And that was the beginning of it, right there.
So then, once you kind of had that self-realization, that revelation in a sense, what was your now approach to saying, you know what, after the conversations that you did have, what was that approach to then asking for her hand in marriage?
We had talked a little bit about that, because we actually had a date plan. You remember? We had a date plan, and brother, I think we sent out invitations. Yeah, and we decided we had invitations, I can tell you, but we stopped it. We were approaching it, and we stopped it. And the reason was, I told her that I remember a conversation of a lady asking me, was I married when I first started working at the place of work? And I told her, no, it wasn't. She said, well, if you ever get married, always put the Lord at the center of your relationship. And I said, okay, I'll take that advice. And when we started pursuing or going towards that, I told her, I said, you know what? I missed it. We should be building on a foundation with God there in the center. We're not doing that. And I said, let's stop everything we're doing now, and let's get our lives together, and then we come back to it if it's meant. And that was it. So with that, I called her. Well, I talked to her. We were engaged, and I asked her to marry me. Would you be my wife? And with that conversation, I guess I asked her mother, and I think I talked to Bev as well. Mentioned to her, and I even though her father, relationship was an estranged relationship, I felt it my duty to ask that man, because it's still his daughter, regardless. Right. And I did call him and ask him that. And once I got those approvals to that degree, we moved forward to setting a time and a date, for our wedding. Yeah.
It wasn't all that fancy.
It wasn't fancy.
You didn't get on your knees.
I don't even remember a whole lot of stuff. It wasn't anything. Yeah, it really was. I think I might have did that dinner, and we sat there and we talked about that.
Would you marry me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything, because I think what probably with the brothers that I was with during the time, I think that changed that, where otherwise I probably would have put more flair into it. It was just that wasn't the case, because even with the things I had for wedding, it changed too. Some of the ideas.
It's okay. It's okay. We made up for it later.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, but we did it. Finally got the courage and got the strength.
3 years later, after
Yeah.
moving
Yeah.
to North Carolina.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, Melendia, what was even that space like? Because, Charles did mention the breakup, the focusing on himself, wanting to strengthen and pursue a relationship with God, even though that wasn't a focal point for you at the
Right.
time, right? What was that transition like for yourself to, even start getting to the point of realizing, like, all right, this This is something that I want, and I want to do it with Charles.
Right. Like we mentioned, we had kind of separated ourselves, but yet we weren't. We weren't living together anymore, but yet we still were keeping in touch with each other. We were still concerned about each other. He still was checking on me, still coming over to campus, checking on me. Me, maybe dropping by. I totally can't remember everything about it.
Right,
but just
right.
checking, checking on each other, checking on each other. And it was then when I saw, and granted, he had a friend was coming over a lot that, I would hear, but I wouldn't heed to some of the stuff. I'm just like, okay. But,
Right.
But then I saw his intent, and he would explain to me that why he was having the desire to feel that he first seek Christ first in order to be the husband that was needed for me,
Right.
and that I needed. And he had to get himself right with Christ first. And I advise you to, do the same. Get yourself, not even just for me, just for yourself. So, the more I saw how dedicated he was, it was an influence, but it was an influence of something I felt that's something I would need to.
Right.
So that transition or transformation over those years of seeing that he's no joke. He's sincere about what he wants to do, and I had to switch that from what I see what he wants to do to see if that's what I need to do.
Right.
So once I kind of got off of the focus on him and made sure I wasn't doing this for him, then that's when I kind of had to connect, because then it was just like, even if we did not get married, then the best thing for me is to make sure that my soul was right, my life was right.
Right.
I would love to have that life with Charles.
Right.
And God, if I don't even know if I said it back then because it's more now, but if it was God's will, then let it be his way. And eventually, as I think it was a divine intervention of us saying, okay, my children, however, the Lord may have, put that out there, but, and then once, like I said, I cannot totally remember, we were at dinner and we were just having a discussion, a conversation, would you like to be my wife? And I'm thinking, yeah, and that was the time we really was focusing and understood the assignment of what needed to be fulfilled in our life. And I heard he had talked to my mother, and he said something to my sister, and then then it was planning time. And then at the time you do what you know at the time, and there are some things that I kind of, and he knows, that I wish we could have changed, because we did things based on other people's way of thinking, like because the church was saying you do certain things certain ways and things like that. So the wedding was not really the way I desired it.
Right.
I'm
Right.
just gonna say that.
Yeah. Understood.
But the end prize was to have this man eventually, after about 6 hours of ceremony.
Ooh. You didn't
Wow.
go there, did you?
After waiting all that time.
That's love. That's love.
That
That's
was
love.
beginning to be impatient. Doing the ceremony. I know we don't have to go too deep.
About to
in
pass
it.
out.
Like 95 degrees outside.
memorable. Oh,
I
yes,
got
sir.
all of this lace
It was
and
memorable.
stuff.
Oh
and,
man. Trying to keep cool so you don't sweat your makeup off.
And then half of the wedding party that we didn't have a whole lot, but having them sit down. But it was to this day, it's a memory of those that are still here. Remember about this wedding. They say,
Right.
y'all better not break up.
And we still,
Right.
we still get the threats, right?
Yes.
Not after that. If y'all break up, boy, yeah, like
Talk
we coming
about
out.
accountability.
Coming
Yeah.
out this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk
So
about
that
accountability.
was
That was fun.
were worth waiting for,
Mm-hmm.
and going through, the what ifs and the, was something I think we both thought about. But yet, once we focused on the real reason as to why we want to do what we want to do to bring together, because then it was again more of him talking about us, us doing this together. Because I always had that mentality that I'm doing this. I'm my own woman. I can handle this. I can do this. But having a partner to build on that relationship, that we working toward a partnership of total unification.
Yes.
That was the focal point of what we needed to do together.
Now, one thing I wanted to tie in before we even, move forward, through your timeline. One thing you did mention just about your upbringing, you grew up in a single parent household, right? What was it like internally to just wrestle with the idea of marriage when you did not come from that?
It was probably some rebuttal. It was because being raised like in a single family, I didn't get that fraternal example of what a man should do. The things I did see was nothing that I wanted, as far as how a man treated a woman, or how I saw my mom being treated. And I can't go, because I can't go total visually on everything I could remember.
Right. That's
with
fine.
my father, but the things I do remember were not good.
Right.
And they were not good. There was, violence and stuff like that. Living in different, states, living in New York, and knowing the division between my mother and my father. Those are the things me and my sister saw. So the struggle was to within myself is, he never better put his hand on me. That was, because that's always been a protection. Now, for me being the youngest, with me and my sister, I was very protective over my sister and my mother, because I knew the things that my mother had been through. I'd seen the things that my sister had been through, and to fathom that now I've got a man that is totally different, but yet I got to make sure that that's not going to settle within. And then there's certain things I may have seen that he was showing as a man that I was like, I'm not doing that. Or you're not going to talk to me that way.
Right.
Because my whole thing was, and I used to say, you ain't my daddy. I used to tell him that I ain't have one and I ain't married one. So even in our beginning of our marriage, that was something that people need to consider. When you're getting married, that past hurt that you bring into a marriage. We are unpacking stuff in our suitcase that, we didn't have to go deal with that as we were dating. But now we're in it. And so that struggle had to deal with trust.
Yes.
That he is looking out. I couldn't really fathom that because I never really saw that, and it began to be okay. It began to be okay to the point where, come on, Melinda, he's not here to hurt you. Not like you've seen.
Right.
So that's even more what I saw different than answering your question. That's what I struggle with, is that letting that go and allowing God to show me that that's not what I gave him to you for. He is your protector. He is here to take care of you. And he will fight for you. You don't have to fight for yourself anymore. So once that light bulb switched, and it was a gradual thing, because every now and then I might get there and then he say something, I'm like, all right, so he might even say even to this day sometimes, but but no, I'm a lot better. But knowing that that I can trust him because he is a God followed man. He's a man following God's own heart. Come on now. And I've seen that.
Beat that.
Yeah, I've seen his walk that way. So that eventually was no longer a struggle.
And I think that that probably speaks to a lot of folks who are probably it's part of their dating courting stage or the early part of their marriage, right? Especially if whether it's the husband or the wife, right? That had that upbringing, right? Because a lot of the times, and actually you said it like, okay, I didn't have a daddy. I'm not marrying my daddy. You're not gonna do so. There's gonna be those traumas, right? Whether no matter what framework it comes from an emotional, mental, physical standpoint, right? There's something there that you had to unpack, that you had to heal from, right? And I think sometimes we don't realize that is almost can cause a splinter in your relationship, right? Especially if you don't address it or acknowledge it, right? Because even if you grew up in a married household and you saw it all around, when you yourself become married, that's new to you as well.
Absolutely.
Right? So you're both from a different vantage point. So although your relationship in a sense doesn't really change based on the foundations that you have created and built your relationship on, there's a dynamic that has shifted, right? And that acknowledgement takes work. It takes time. And just because a couple has been together for 47 years, been married for 40 years, doesn't mean that it's been all roses the entire time, right? So with that, actually, Melendia, I'll start with you first. Can you think of a time that you guys had to deal with something very challenging that may have brought you even closer?
Excuse me, 1 second. If you don't mind, if we could rewind just a little bit.
Oh yeah, go right ahead.
Concerning the single parent and with the father. I want to say that I know you did it from your perspective, but even from a mixed perspective, because that became difficult at times, even for me, because I could see, and hopefully we can help somebody with this, because you may be on the receiving end of that, and sometimes it does not look pretty. So
or feel pretty.
Absolutely. So with that, at times I felt that, and I was trying to be instrumental in you and your father like getting together several times, and because that I saw enough of that I didn't want that hurt to exist in our marriage, because guess what? Who gets the brunt of that? Me. Okay, so as a spouse, that's the thing. So, and then too, when you express you're not my daddy, when that came out, there were times I didn't respond in the best manner, because I would hurt her back by saying, how do you know? You don't know what a father is, because you never saw it. So now, and I told one of my friends this week, and I said, brother, I'm gonna tell you how low I got with that. When she said that, I've actually gone there. He said, tell me you didn't. I said, yes, I did. So the hurt that you felt against me about your father's situation, I would in turn to say, yeah, how do you know? And even comparing. So that's the thing. We have to be understanding in that. So I just wanted to just express that.
No, I think that's a gem that, folks who have been in that situation, been in your shoes per se, right? Regardless of what side. I think there's an appreciation that probably will come from that nugget, because those relationships or lack thereof can be very impactful. How it impacts us is up to us.
Yes.
Right? Because on one hand, you're going to have the negative. Right? You're never going to believe in marriage. You're never going to believe in partnership. You're never going to have trust in that other person the way that you should or need to, when it comes to being married. The other side of it is you got the blueprint of what you don't want to become.
Right.
Right? So you're going to have, and I think there's going to be times where you kind of dance in the gray area. You know, yes, you're going to, I don't ever want to be that.
Yes.
But then there's going to be times where you're just like, this is all I know.
Yes. Right.
Right? So
Exactly.
I think that's,
Right.
you know, I think that's a dynamic that, you know, might help, you know, some of the viewers out there that may hear this, right? And how important it is to understand, especially again now hearing this nugget that was just dropped by Brother Charles here. I think with that understanding, it's going to help a lot of people navigate that space. You know, because I just from experience and talking to a lot of couples, those things don't come out in dating.
Right.
They don't come out in the first year of living together.
Exactly. No.
They don't even come out in year 5 of being married.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So when it does come out, you at least now have something that you can put in your back pocket. Put that ace up your sleeve of just like, oh, I remember seeing this on Love in the Details. Charles and Melendia brought this up, right? Now I know how to respond or how not to respond.
Sure. Can I add something too?
Yes.
My father, who's 95 years old, he'll be 96 in December. His father left when he was 6 years old. And I really never asked him his story. But I noticed that growing up, my father expressed himself. And I told him this recently. I said, man, I'm going to tell you, you were one of the meanest men I knew. I said, I'm telling you, you were a mean man coming up, bro. You were rough. But I didn't understand it. So my siblings, I had 2 brothers and 1 sister that left. They left early, married, they were gone. So with my father being there, my sister, the younger of the sisters, and myself, I tried to understand, like, can I ask you, why do you do the way you do? Why do you talk the way you do? And then I understood that he had anger from his father leaving at 6 years old, age 6. And God had it so that I was instrumental in bringing my father back with his father.
Wow.
In the early 2000s, though he was not cognitive, but together, because I saw him for years, but I never understood it until someone helped me understand that your father's holding unforgiveness. And when I said, Dad, have you forgiven your father? My father got even more angry at me for asking that question. And I know I was taking a chance, but the Lord allowed me to be instrumental in that. So, and I know we're taking a shift, brother, but
no, I appreciate that because again, you know, these conversations and the reason I'm even doing this is to help folks navigate, the marriage space, and I think a lot of the times when you have these type of conversations, you can also heal an individual, right? So in that example that you just gave, you didn't heal your 95-year-old dad, you healed your 6-year-old dad.
Yes. And you know what you just said, he said, I cannot forgive him now. I would have had to do that as a 6-year-old, as a kid. And I said, but Dad, you can free yourself right now.
Because that's a heavy weight.
Yes, sir.
That had a lot of baggage with it.
Yes, sir.
Right? And sometimes that baggage turns into damage to your children.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Then when you damage your children, you're damaging all those relationships. So whether it's 1 kid or 10 kids, however many you have, you're now creating extra baggage from your own situation, from your trauma, from your anger, you know, from your unforgiveness. Is now going to spread to other generations. If you don't get the opportunity to heal.
And we saw resolution there. And also we saw resolution with she and her father.
Lovebirds, if you're ready to feel calmer, sleep better, and recharge your energy, check out my friends at Grounding Well. Their grounding mats make it easy to bring balance and wellness right into your home. Hit the link in the description below and start grounding today. Now back to the details.
So again, like, you know, those are things that you know, can definitely be, you know, takeaways, you know, for folks that have dealt with or are dealing with those type of situations. Because I think now, especially the generation of young adults that are coming up right now, there's a high percentage of them that are coming from single parent households.
Oh yes, right, definitely.
There's a high percentage
Yes.
of them that don't see the positivity in marriage.
Right.
There's a high percentage
Yes.
of them that are carrying that burden, carrying that weight, carrying that anger, carrying that unforgiveness with them, and they will never allow somebody else that opportunity to come in and allow them to either be that flashlight,
Yes.
be that guiding light,
Mhm.
be that buffer
Mm-hmm.
to heal the little child that has been hurt
Yes.
by all of that absence.
Right.
You know, because you can plug in however many absences that you want, but those things, you know, can impact us as adults, and
Yes.
a lot of the times we don't acknowledge that.
Yes.
Right? So number one, I appreciate you for highlighting that, because there's gonna be some folks that are gonna listen and just say, oh, I'm grateful that he asked that question. I'm grateful that he interjected with that, because I'm dealing with that.
Yes.
I saw that.
Yes.
My spouse has dealt with that.
Mhm.
Now I know what to look out for.
Yes.
Now I know how to respond and how not to respond. Right? So I really think that, you know, those, you know, that type of conversation is very important. And I hope that, you know, any couples that are out there dealing with that, take some time to sit down and have those conversations, as difficult and as emotional as they may be. This is an example, this couple right here is an example of the healing that can come out of that on a multitude of levels.
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And not to lament in the space per se, but I still think that you know, getting back to the difficult time frame that brought you guys closer is another teaching point.
Yes.
Right? And learning from other people's experience. So, you know, Melendia, back to you. What could you think of, or what stood out to you or stands out to you as a situation that, you know, came about that you guys had to fight through and it brought you closer together?
The first thing I can think of is the birth of our son. The birth of our son was maybe, I mean, we've had some smaller challenges before then, but this to me was the epitome of knowing that we had to depend on each other. We had God, yes, but we had no one else there to help us through it like we thought. The church family who forsook us, our initial family was far away, and all we had was each other. You know, yes, you know, my mom was here to help take care of our daughter at the time, but that feeling that when you have dealt with the birth of a child that had some serious medical conditions, that he could live critically, severely troubling, you know, with some severe things, or he could die. We didn't know.
Right.
We all we saw on the surface that we had already gone through a traumatic delivery, and then dealing with things that we have never in our life dealt with.
Right.
And there was a point that I can say totally that I don't know if I ever forget it, and that's when we stood on that terrace by ourselves with God. I never want to take God out, but when we physically are just standing there trying to make sure that we're making the right decision as to what to do for our son. And we also had to think about those that we thought were there for us is in a church service not supporting us. So we're here, and the crying that we had together on that terrace, I think, brought us together closer than in the years that I can't even really put it into words, because it's just something I'd never known. And then that makes me think more on the side of when I first met this man and how he started catering to my needs and my thoughts and the sincerity, and vice versa. As he knew that I was there, we were there for each other.
Right.
And we could feel each other's pain. And that was a pain that I would never wish on anyone. But it's such a deep rooted pain of an unexpected situation that you could lose the only son on his side, and I don't know, only boy on his side, but not really thinking about that, but just your child.
Yeah, your child.
You know, and
that's not the cycle of life. You're,
right.
you know, as a parent, your child is supposed to bear
right.
you.
Yes.
So
yes.
I understand
yes.
that thought
So
process.
the newness of it all, you know, starting after a couple of days of being born and going through all of this. Now we're in a situation that they don't really know how this is going to turn out. The doctors, I don't know how this is going to turn out. We want to try this to hopefully try to save his life, but I don't know. You know, and then the prayers, the crying. So that is what I can think that brought us together. And from there on, I think that it's kept us grounded and knowing we can get through this. The other trials that we've gone through, the death of my sister, the financial situations, the other traumas that we've had thereafter, we reflect on that and saying we couldn't have been much closer. And unfortunately, that was a trauma that brought us closer than we ever had. And that, you know, God knew the plan. We just wasn't sure how to maneuver through that plan.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the thing that the only thing really that sticks to my mind that brought us closer than we ever had been.
And Brother Charles, I could see that, you know, the moment Melendia mentioned that moment, there's definitely some, you know, heavy emotion on your side that might be the answer to the question as well.
That's my thing. And I, you know, for a while it's been tough to situation, emotion behind it, because it's sort of the level she didn't realize everything that was going on and that's the thing. And at the time, you know, growing up for me, I was a crybaby growing up, brother. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Yeah, I was. And my siblings made it known, and even when I expressed to my father, I became honest with my father as a teen. And I said things to him that was in my heart that none of the other ones ever said. They got up to a point to say, we out. Okay, so dealing with that, it was important for me not to let my wife and family see the crybaby.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just be honest with that, because again, we hear men don't cry, right? We hear that. Men shouldn't cry. But that has to be the toughest moment in my life, and I know our life, was the birth of our second child, our son, Darren. We talk about this. We actually revisited. We did a podcast a couple back, and we shared that information and showed pictures from the birth. The birth itself was a lot. See, our daughter, she actually was like 5 pounds, 9.5 ounces, and so with this pregnancy, they were telling her that he'd be between 8 and 10 pounds. And we're like, whoa, you know, like she said, she was like, this ain't coming out of me. Yeah. So that was the thing. So it was already unusual. And then with the stress part of that,
smaller.
and the thing about it was the stress level that they end up putting you out of work, you know, because of some of that. And the doctor said, I don't think you ought to be working. I think you ought to come on out. So it was that. And then too, it was a dream that God showed me. Months before he was born, I was with some brothers, and I slept that night. Something about this child, and it was to a point that there was an angel, and he called himself a messenger of God, came to give me a message. And I'm sitting here, and in that dream, the things that were being shown, I had a heads up that something is happening with this child, and it was so strange. And even with that, the messenger never told me what it was. At the time, he flipped through a Bible, a thick Bible, one page at a time in a rocking chair. All they did was rocked and turned up. And I was saying, what is the message God has for me? And he just stopped and said, it's the baby. And I said, what about the baby? Let me know. Tell me what is it. I said, if our baby's born with no limbs and this, and that, we'll still love that child. We'll be here. That's what I said in my dream. This was months before it was born, but I never told my wife that dream. Because I didn't want her putting that in her mind, going through pregnancy like that. But I told the brothers that were there, and I said, look, this is what God showed me. And they were like, bro, we never, dealt like this. Man, ask God to show you the meaning. And that's what they were asking. So that was the preparation. I used to say, I thank God for my man child. And I said, Lord, put in my spirit, gonna have a son. Thank God for my man child. And her pregnancy was so difficult, bro. Like I said, we went there and it happened. It was so strange the way things happened. No, not the whole pregnancy. At times, you could tell it was taking a lot out of you because they were saying your nourishment was being, like depleted from this baby, So it was different. It was a different pregnancy. So at delivery, we went the night of, and they were trying to induce her labor. And the doctor said, well, nothing happened tonight. We out of here. So, going through the toughness of that part, everything was leveled off. And my wife was saying, I think this baby's coming. And the nurse said, oh, no. You're not. The baby's not coming. No, you're probably feeling something. Like it's not happening yet. And after a while, my wife said, Charles, this baby is coming. I feel him coming. Please get that nurse. I said, ma'am, my wife is saying the baby's coming. She said, oh my goodness. Oh, I didn't know like you have dilated that much in that fast time. She said, go get dressed. And I'm sitting here like, okay. So I go, get the scrub, quickly get back. When I walk back in that room, there are doctors and nurses in that room, feel all over the place. And I'm looking, the whole scene had changed. And I'm like, what's going on?
Happened? Right.
They're giving my wife out. And I'm saying, and they're yelling for the doctor. Where's the doctor? Where's the doctor? We tried to page him. And it was like emergency people scrambling. And I'm like, Lord, what's going on? So they said, well, we haven't contacted the doctor. So I said, we need to get her to the delivery room. So that went on. And as they were taking her to the delivery room, they said, we don't have time. Pushed her back in. And then she said, I want something for pain. They said, no, baby, you've gone too far. We can't give you anything for pain. And so she said, okay. I said, hey, we need a doctor. We need to do the episiotomy. Our child was coming. And he was tearing her coming. And so when I'm sitting here and I'm watching all of this, I'm thinking like, Lord, what happened? And they deliver our son, Darren, and he is lifeless. He is blue, period. And basically just dangling. And they had the little suction device, suction his nose, suction his mouth, nothing. So right there, I said, Lord, I said, the child is gone. I said, take care of my wife. I said, Lord, watch over my wife. So I'm watching her, and they're giving her oxygen still, and she's laying down, and it was just so much. And they grab our son, and they run with him in the hallway, and I hear him crying when they get to the hallway. And I said, oh, thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. And so that was the turn of things. And so they did tell us he has these hemangioma, the blood vessel collection, and this and that they would tell us. And our doctor even said he had 2, and we're sitting here like, what? And we go get this baby, and I said, let's uncover him, let's get ready. We're going to see what they're saying. Uncover our child. There were marks, I think, for the forceps or those things trying to get him out. That's what it was. And I'm saying, why is he doing this? So, get him home, and we were at home a few days, and my wife came to me after a couple of days and said, Charles, something is wrong with our baby. He would stop breathing, and all of a sudden, he started back, and you see his forehead get blue, his lip had a blood vessel collection, they would turn dark purple. And so we said, something is wrong. And I said, okay, baby, go ahead and take him today, let the doctor see him. I said, I'm going to go to work. I said, if you need me, you call me, and I'll be there. I'll be there. And my mother-in-law went with you, and we're all there, and the doctor watched, and she said, something is blocking his airway. And so that was the start. We need to get him to the hospital. We went through all that. and ended up, he was in the hospital for 5 weeks. Our son was the youngest child at the time to have a tracheotomy. He was 3 weeks old, had a tracheotomy. When my wife first saw that, after that surgery, they brought him with the trach. This is 3 weeks in. She went and saw him before I was there, and she almost passed out because you see your infant, with this thing sticking out, and it was tough to see. But even before that, during the first visit, that's when they had us. I went home that night. They were questioning her, and then that next morning she calls me frantically saying they had to do an emergency surgery. I said, what did they find? What's going on? She said, I had to sign all these papers, and they say this can happen, that, and even death. And I'm sitting there like, oh Lord. I said, I'm on my way. And when I got there, grabbed her, we went to the terrace, and we were praying to God. And that's when as you mentioned, our church, our family, they were in service having church, and we were there needing our church, so church family. And we made a promise to each other that we would never, if we knew of people going through, we would never allow them to go through the loneliness that we experienced. And we made that vow, and we were true to that vow over the years, because some of the same members in that church had issues with their children, or had issues there, and we said, we're going to show up. Even after we left that church, we said that we're going to be true to our vow, and that's what we did. We showed up, so, and some of them, even when we went to our podcast summit, our young man, we called it like a son to us. We went and visited him, and he said, look, I remember y'all came to the hospital to see me twice. And he said, when I had my diagnosis, man, he said, I never forgot that. This man, he's 36. He's 36 years old. And we interviewed him, and he said, I remember when you stood up in church too at one point, you asked the husband, did they hug their wives, or did they do something? He said, I was a kid. So, and I apologize for being long-winded and talking like I do, but I just want to just give the details.
That's why I called the show Love in the Details, right? Because a deeper connection was created.
Yes, sir.
And you guys were already tight, right? When you look back at being pen pals for 4 years, right? You already established a foundation of connection, right? Then, even the transition of, Melendia moving down to North Carolina, again, the details that you guys have laid out is definitely going to be helpful to a lot of people, right? So you don't have to apologize of that, because it wasn't a tangent. It stayed on topic. But most importantly, it gave us some insight to such a tough moment for some parents to deal with, right? Because I know that there's hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of parents that share a very similar story of their child being born with some type of complication. That is very hard to see, because when you even have the idea that the number one thing that you pray for is a healthy, happy baby. Right? And when that doesn't happen, it can be very devastating. It could even lead to that couple splitting up because of how intense those emotions are. Maybe even disappointment could be a word used, right? But when you're able to lean on the foundation of the connection that you guys have, the friendship, the support, the trust, it shows you in what you guys have now overcame. And again, I'm dropping the link to their podcast, so you're gonna get to see the conversation with Darren as well, because I think that's important for folks to hear and understand of what it takes to get through a time like that. Right?
Can I say something too? Something you mentioned when you asked people that are expecting, like you, boy, girl, and it's like, it doesn't matter as long as it's healthy. Let me tell you, we learned something through that, and it started our conversation, because that to us became offensive.
Right.
Let me tell you. And I'll tell you why I say that. And we ask the question, what if it's not healthy? What do? Do you return it? Do you go back and say, can I get a refund? This is not what I want. Let me tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
The dream that God showed me, He was preparing my heart that something was going to be different about this child. Now, did I have a chance to say, Lord, I don't want this child? Did I get that option? I said it. Even in my dream, I said, Lord, if your child comes with no limbs, we're going to love this child anyway. Because so many people told us in that hospital. Now, my wife had just had this kid. She was going through, the hormones were not balanced at this point.
Yeah.
Going through mental state, your child, there he is. We don't know whether he's going to live or die. And people were coming to us and they were saying to us,
you can have another child.
No. What I'm talking about, the encouragement part that we heard from parents to say, God.
But before that.
No. I'm talking the positive part right now.
Okay.
God gives special children to special people.
Ooh.
That's what and they kept telling us, and I'm like, oh my Lord. And we heard it so much where that helped us to embrace what we were dealing with, my brother. Now,
God didn't give
Go
this child
Go
to
ahead.
anybody else.
Right.
But the
Chosen. You're chosen.
So, I didn't feel like I want to be chosen.
At the time, you don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But man, it resonated. And we have family members right now that are going through, and their infant son had a tracheotomy.
Mm-hmm.
And we have told them,
we're here for you.
we here.
We know.
We know what that's like. And they were like, oh, really? That's right? So again, man, and this kid just had surgery last week.
Mm-hmm.
And again, matter of fact, he won one of the gifts that we did on our 40th celebration. He and his wife were on there. They won one of the gifts. So yeah, definitely. And we touched and I reached out and say, look, brother, I know as a father what you're dealing with,
yes.
and as a mother. So we here for you, man. We here. Yeah. So definitely.
And I didn't listen to that too much as far as I did hear certain things, even being in the hospital, because when I saw children with various different medical challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And Darren was not diagnosed with any of the things that I saw, but the mind played on me so bad that I'm thinking my child could be like this, or my child could be, didn't even have the same thing. And so I heard, some parents was, well, you could have another child. And I'm like, I don't want another. This is the one that God gave me to.
Yeah,
so, just different. And oh my gosh, I saw, children in there that when you say that it can cause breakups in relationships, I mean, literally, I would not leave his bedside.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I was told I need to
twice a day.
I need to go
for
home
5 weeks.
Get a shower or something. I need to get
Right.
myself together.
Yeah.
Right.
But being there, I've seen children that I've never seen anybody come see.
Yes.
5
weeks,
babies in
5
there.
weeks, man.
Babies in there, and the whole time I'm in there, and people say, nobody's. There was one that had been there, had never been
Come
outside.
outside, brother.
Here's a baby, because
Right.
nobody has ever been there.
Never been outside.
So that brought me more and more that I am not leaving my baby.
But that baby celebrated going outside with them nurses
He did.
for the first time.
Baby that we're talking about. And this was from the nurses.
Yeah.
Not
They
from the
did. No
family
family.
member.
Right.
Could they come in and see? So, just a little plug about for parents that you have a child.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Right.
You are not alone. Your feelings are validated. How you feel when you're going through it, and it's rough.
Yes.
It's rough. Have someone of support. I can be your support system. I can be here for you.
We've been there.
There's no fluff about the way I felt. There's no fluff about even him being 35 years old.
Yep.
Even as
35,
he's gotten older,
Yes.
he still deals with some of the medical challenges. He still has what they call now lymphangioma or venous malformation.
Right,
he still deals with that. And so as a grown person, and I'm trying to steer off, it's just the fact that I don't want, anyone that may be listening to us, and if you're dealing with it, knowing that you're by yourself, or you
Right,
got to
right.
do this by
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm.
The connection and having people that you can connect with,
Yes.
you know, and my thought still with our 35-year-old son,
Mhm.
call me the helicopter mom because I still swoop in,
Mm-hmm.
is that the outside interferences that this world
Sure.
give these
Right.
people out here,
Mhm.
you don't look like
You're
nobody
not
else,
this, yeah.
you're not
Mhm.
this, you still have this, because his face is still
Mm-hmm.
a little large, and as a grown man, I'm sure he deals with that. And then there's
Mhm.
other outside influences that are not
Yes.
good for him.
Right.
That could
Mhm.
come in and creep in and say, well, we can take you here, or we love you better here, or
Mhm.
things like that.
Mhm.
But knowing we've always told him, now I don't necessarily agree because he's grown with some of the choices. That's what both our children.
Right.
But
right.
we will always be there.
Mhm.
And
Unconditional love.
unconditional, and I will
That's it.
fight for you.
Mhm.
You know, he can tell you a lot of his friends. I would say, now I will hurt you.
And let's go ahead and break that down, because number one, he has a heart of gold. He gives a lot. He's very giving, and I don't like to see, and we as parents don't like to see people take advantage of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with some of his friends and gathering, I've made known that, hey, love our son, but I don't like people taking advantage of him. I'm gonna tell you that right now. We don't like that. So
So, just wanted that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then too, we had shared that the doctors had their ideas of what was going to happen, but God
has
said
something
different, brother. And we got to say that they had told us we would not hear our baby cry until he was about 1 or 2 years old. We wouldn't hear.
And he
Okay.
would leave.
So
And
Right.
actually
Yeah.
gave him a sentence to how long he was going to live.
probably between 9 and certain age was the
So
lifespan.
he's
You know,
35.
35
Still-
years old.
Yeah.
And the thing is, homeowner, he's been a homeowner, about 3 or 4 years. He's graduated from School of North Rhine, has his bachelor's.
So he
and
has a good.
He's done a lot. He's done a lot. So,
Yeah. And
but I got to give God the glory now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that. Got to do that. And I'm just saying the things that we didn't think he would be doing, just like even with swimming. They told him he would never be able to swim, brother. And I'm saying with a tracheotomy, and God said no. And our podcast that we go into more detail of that, so I'm not going to try to redo that. But,
No, that's
but
fine.
brother, I got to give God the glory. I don't. That's the thing. Where we are, God gets all the glory.
Yeah.
And I'm just
I
saying,
don't want to neglect.
Go
because
ahead.
His sister
Yes.
is a champion for her brother.
Yes.
Mm.
Right.
Even as
Mhm.
and I don't want to prolong this part of
Right.
it. Even at when they were younger.
Yeah.
Because
Uh-huh.
that's the other trial and challenge.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we
Protections
were
and
pouring
that.
into our son
Yes.
Mhm.
that we needed to,
You
keep
needed
it
to do that.
To
Right.
balance
But
our
then- but then
with our daughter. Yeah.
knowing that
Mhm.
we had a 5-year-old,
Yes.
4.5-year-old
Right.
here
Mhm.
that needed, because her expectations as
Mm-hmm.
mommy was pregnant and I'm gonna have a brother, because we
Right,
was gonna have a boy, and then coming
Brother
home,
coming home.
he came
yeah.
home for a couple days,
Yeah.
And I
and
had to
now
go right back.
go
in the
right back, and
hospital.
then he comes back with this
The
hole
thing
in his
in his
neck.
neck,
So that was all strange
Yeah,
to
that was
everyone.
a
But
lot.
I can say, because I always used to say, you're the smartest girl in the world. I always we always had to impart that there's no other 5-year-old can say cystic hygroma lymphangioma. And that's what she used to say. She'll be, when we're out somewhere at dinner, and she'll say, she didn't quite say it the way,
Right, yeah,
you never
yeah,
seen
yeah.
nobody with cystic hygroma lymphangioma before, it's that kind of thing. So it's so important when you have siblings in one,
Sure.
it has to have more, support than the other. Then, we had nurses and things like that.
Yeah.
But
for years. Really.
I can
16
say,
hours a day.
and they even they have grown together
Yes.
so well. Some things I'm like, don't be hiding that.
Yeah, we don't
Right.
like that bond sometimes.
But I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, partners
Don't
in
have to
crime
do that.
sometimes,
Yeah.
so to speak.
But it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And, again, for those of you that either may be in a situation like that, know someone in a situation like that, please do yourself and them a favor and share this.
Yeah.
Like this video, share it to those who might need to hear, even if it's just this part of the conversation. Because I think, and you both have said it, there's a lot of times that those parents will feel alone.
Yes. Right.
even the children as well
Yes.
may
Right.
feel a little neglected, may feel like an outcast. Just know that, for them to just know that, there's others like them that have weathered the storm
Yes.
and have been
Right.
perfectly fine
Mm-hmm.
in their own way
Right.
with their situation. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
is very key. So I appreciate you guys being transparent, with that part of your story.
Sure.
Now as we transition a little bit into our conversation to my favorites, that's what I like about this segment is an opportunity to just kind of look back. And I know there are certain things that you might repeat, right? Just because of how detailed you were in your storytelling. But I like to just touch on and whatever comes to mind. But when you hear of what are my favorite things about Charles, Melendia, our beginning, our journey, and just life together. Charles, I'll start with you. What is one of the favorite things that you have experienced with your wife?
Well, I shared this with her on our last podcast, and I told her I really appreciate how she gives the self-care, how she takes care of herself, her body, the pampering. I really do, because again, I look at that as to say she spends that time and she's smelling good or putting things on her to make her skin soft, and I told her I always appreciated that. And to me, that says that, hey, you still turn me on, just in short. And I appreciate that. I appreciate how she protects. She is a protector, really, and of the family. And I think either people that are in a corner she protects. And I appreciate how she demonstrates love. Because like I say, in the early years, she expressed how she felt, and that's one thing. She taught me some things about showing love. It's like just outward holding hands and all. I do it now and then, but I wasn't there.
Right.
But she's kind of shown me to open up when it comes to showing affection. I appreciate those things.
Melendia, what about you? What are some of your favorite things?
From early on, I just thought that he was just totally transparent. He will tell me what's on his heart. He will tell me what's going on. And I'll be like, you gotta say so much. You gotta tell us.
Yeah, you just said that the other day.
I think even his parents have told him.
Yeah.
You told him that. You
Yeah.
told her that.
Yeah.
But that showed me someone that is honest. And he's not pretentious. He's gonna say what he feels.
Right.
And I love that about him. Sometimes it may not appear. It may not appear. But then when I sit down and think, would you want him to not share that? Would you want him not to tell him how you feel about that?
Right.
So, I love that about him. I do. And I love how he loves me. I love how he loves me. Genuinely loves me. It's times when, I get very self-conscious about myself.
Right.
Like if I'm picking up weight, mainly that's what it is. If I'm picking up weight, or if I don't think my hair is right, or if I see, I went through this whole terrible transition of understanding about my skin, and I was allergic to everything, every bug, everything. I can't wear makeup and things like that. While I went through this terrible transition of the experimentation of stuff, and it just burned me and he, sincerely looked at me and know that you're gonna be okay. Like he generally, wholeheartedly looks at me like he loves me. And then sometimes I be in my own self,
yes.
And you're looking at me because I've gotten fatter, or you looking at me right, but getting past my own insecurities I see, and that he will say to him, to me, I had to realize, am I looking at you that way? So,
Right.
that transparency, that kind of thing. And the other thing, he's full of humor, at times that I just be like, yeah, that wasn't funny. I love that he has that humor, in it, and his humor can turn into some kind of sarcastic humor.
Right.
But he just has. Now I'm gonna say this real quick. When we were dating, this is how I knew that this man is funny crazy, because he came in. I don't know what we were doing, and he always liked to spark something, a shock factor, like funny, or something. He came in, I can't even know if I can put it together, but he crawled, however this thing was, just a shock factor to entertain me.
Right.
He had on this suit that was very long here, and I may be not saying it right, but he was this little. Okay. I don't know what it's like a trench coat thing or whatever. And his little head was sticking out in his hands, and he coming. I'm like, what in the? I'll never forget that. I don't know if we talk about that, but he just does things to kind of snap you out of that whatever I may be into.
Right.
And he has been that way. I could get into my thoughts too deeply. He will, that's another thing, he will switch that around to make me forget about that.
Mm-hmm.
And as well as when we're going through certain things, showing me, trust God about this.
Right.
He's always been in that corner to say, you got to depend on God about this. Bring it, and that's to our family.
Right.
We have a Bible study every week, Lord's will, most of the time. And that has been a routine thing. He has been good, and it's not as good, I'm going to say bad. His intentions has always been pure to support his family. And always work out the way he desired at first, but he's never allowed me to see that defeat in him. Because as a man, and I've always been like, men have the hardest time sometimes because it's rough. If certain things interrupt their ability to support, or whether it's financial or physical, medical or whatever, and regardless, he has just showed me that stamina, that soundness, that this man, as the kids say, he closer to God than all of us. That's what he been saying, because he puts us back in the, wait a minute. So those are the things that really.
That's awesome. And I like those examples because they're deeper than most, right? But it shows the evolution of what you guys deem important, right? And it also ties into the next segment, which is the little things, right? And I know that we had this conversation on your podcast, but the little things sometimes get overlooked, especially in today's conversation with relationships in general, right? Everybody thinks that the most important things in a relationship is going to be some grand gesture, some type of majestic thing, some type of, elaborate trip, fancy dinner, crazy gift. But what you guys even just detailed, with your favorite things are things that are just not the norm, right? But it's important to you, right? And it's and probably even with listening to each other share what your favorite moments and things about each other have been. It rekindles something, right? It brings something out that you want more of, right? So even even though I'm not yet ready to get to little things just yet, there was something that we were talking about off camera a little bit with traveling, right? What would, Charles, will go to you. What would you say is like either your favorite trip or your favorite moment or memory from one of your trips together?
I have to say the favorite trip was when we flew to Hawaii. That we did Waikiki a couple of days, and then went to Maui.
Oh,
Maui, yeah. So we had the in-town version of what was happening, and then we were in the rural side, beautiful side, seeing nature. And I think that was the best trip, because even with that trip, we explored a lot. Scared you a lot of times. and,
Trying to be funny.
Yeah. it was so funny. It was a lot of moments of that we did. So doing daring little things, and then too, it was the environment. It was a peaceable environment, and at the end we were saying, like, okay, we didn't argue one time, and it was just the no worry kind of environment there, and it really pressed on us, how we conducted ourselves there. The funny moment, I think one of the funniest moments for me was when we were taking pictures. We were on a beach little area, and it had these humongous rocks. It was like like a couple of rocks. And we were there, and I helped her. I helped her get on the rock so I could take a picture. I told her, hey, just be careful on the rock, and so I'm looking ready to take a picture. And my wife, she's afraid of bugs. Doesn't matter what it is. Just like yesterday, we were at her grandson's game of butterfly. She started doing this number, and our son, Darren says, "Mom, it's just a butterfly." And I said, "Son, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right?
Let's be real." So we were, and with Hawaii, I would say we didn't notice like a lot of bugs like we normally see in places. So there we were, and you had a your hair was fixed a certain way, and you had these like chopsticks going through, and
it
so
made a little noise.
Okay, so I'm sitting there and I'm taking a picture, and just kind of doing a video and then I look and I said, like something is on my head here, and I'm looking and I said, "Ooh, that's a bug. That's a big thing." And I said, okay, so now how do I tell her that she doesn't fall off? Because my wife goes crazy. She's like, it doesn't matter. She's not thinking. She loses and we bust a side little light panel on our door because of her with bug. So I'm trying to be careful. And I said, baby,
that's all
there's a little something, just if you would, something. And once I said that was enough to trigger her, because she started doing all this from the rock. And you didn't. I don't think you fell. You didn't fall off. You were coming up, and I got there to help her down.
Okay.
And then, I don't know, man, this thing was humongous, And I told her, I said, girl, I didn't want to just tell you there's a bug on your head, because
right.
You took a picture.
Yeah.
You should have took a picture.
That is true too.
Yeah.
Just for the evidence.
And I didn't know what it was, and I didn't want it to stay on.
Yeah.
Let's do this. That was one of our funny moments there. Yeah.
Melendia, what was one of your favorite trips or moments from a trip?
Hawaii again.
Okay.
Hawaii was absolutely one of the best trips we could have. They got this no worries.
Oh yeah.
And at first I wasn't sure what they were saying.
That was a gang sign, like. Yeah.
Once we kind of got familiar with the environment, and they were telling us, so it was just literally no worries. Literally, I even got like a little Hannah tattoo on my leg that one day I might get. And it says Charlie's Angel.
Ooh, I like that.
So one of these days. But that was one of the best trips, and the moment in that trip, one besides the one he just said for me too, was when he decided that he wanted to be the daredevil and drive up this mountain that only goes one way.
Oh.
Now the mountain has drop-offs. You know, one side is death and the other side is death.
Oh, really? Don't do that.
Look at the alley. It's not even an alley. It's small enough just for a small car to go up there. Not thinking if somebody's already up there,
trying to come down.
somebody got to back up.
Ooh, Lord.
So we're here. We are live. And when he was going up, I said, I don't think we should do this.
Yeah, she did.
I really, you know, and he had his convertible that he wanted. Mustang. We went red.
Yep, it was
Red Mustang. And I said, I just don't think we should do this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we hadn't gotten very far. Thank you, Jesus. And here comes a car.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Coming the opposite way. They had much more problems. I don't know where they came from.
Right.
But it had been all the way up there.
Yeah.
Coming there, and I'm like,
What
Like, what we gonna do? Yeah.
he wants, I can do this. I did not come here to die.
Exactly.
Our kids helped us get here. This was our 25th wedding anniversary.
Yeah,
I said,
yeah.
I did not come here to not be here. Because we
Right.
saw so many different signs
Yeah.
of people who had fallen off.
Yeah, memorial
They had,
sites. It was a lot
like,
of memorial sites around. We didn't-
Crosses
we
at
didn't know,
places that people had fallen off taking pictures or
Yes,
just
things
different
like
things. So
that.
all of this is going in my
Oh,
mind.
man.
And I'm saying, we're going to be in a car falling over.
A convertible at that.
Because he wanted to go up and see what was up there.
Right.
But glory be to God,
Yeah.
he slowly, he was, I don't know if it was slow, because to me, he was going a little fast. And and y'all, I did say, we get back on that ground, I'm going to get me the strongest drink. Because it
I'll
was-
take that edge off.
But we did get back. So that was, it was a beautiful trip though.
Yeah.
Even after that,
Right.
I did not want to go through any more of that. We saw the
yeah.
most beautiful, like, with the peacocks.
Oh yeah, peacocks.
And areas
That's
and
called
just
the Garden of
Garden
Eden. It was called
the waterfalls.
Yeah, right.
It was
beautiful,
so
place.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So yes, that and the time we just had together
Yeah,
was
yeah.
impeccable.
Nice. So thinking back to the opportunity to be a parent of now 2 children, right? So you already shared, all the things that you had to deal with Darren's birth and just childhood and him growing up. Now to shed some light for our viewers, Charles, what has been your favorite moment or memory of being a parent?
I have to say, in spite of the challenges of the second birth, still to see both my children being born. When I saw it the first time when Ashley was born, I sat back and I say, I don't see how anybody can question God after this. The way things had worked, and I'm saying, gosh, Lord, this is just so much proof that you exist. And when I left that night, I went home and I wrote a song to Ashley, about her. And because again, I was so overjoyed because I was told, oh, you may not be able to take it being there watching that because several men have passed out.
Yes.
I said, I don't know what they expect,
Yes.
but I'm saying, gosh, this is so beautiful. And even with Darren's birth, as traumatic as it was, to me, that experience, I would never trade anything for the experience of being a father. Because I want to say something. Years before, I was with the band during the time I had gotten laid off, and we were about to take off to a degree, and this group wanted to invest in our band, and they laid some things down. They wanted us to live in a house together. They were going to put us in they own real estate out of Charlotte. They wanted to put us in a house together, wanted us rehearsing like all day. Just
round the
relax,
clock, yeah.
coming up with material, original songs, getting better at our craft. and they didn't want anybody getting married for 5 years.
Whoa.
That was the day I said, you know what? I don't want anybody telling me that because I want to be a husband at some point. I'm asking the Lord to get me prepared. Your boy ain't ready yet, Lord,
Right.
but bring me there. So, with that, being a parent was one of the things, and that's the moment I saw the birth, and I just said, Lord, I thank you. Wouldn't give anything for that experience, really.
Love that. Melendia?
I think my precious moments of being a parent, having adult children now, and watching how they have evolved, and now one adult child is a mother, and seeing how even as they grew up making mistakes and whatever, but watching them now in the maturity, and even them saying things of how they do things based on the way they were raised, and pattern certain things based on how their dad and their mom is. Just watching them in their decision making and maneuvering and navigating through challenges with life, work, relationships, people, raising a child of her, herself, co-parenting, the whole manifestation of watching them grow up, and now looking at them as adults is, I have no regrets of saying I'm really doing the best I can to show my daughter what a wife should be, showing my daughter how a woman should take care of herself, showing her how a mother should be, showing our son what a woman should when he looks for a companion, showing him how he should, and that's more of the dad side, take care, and appreciate. So when they do things for us, it is so heartfelt because they both have a heart of gold.
Definitely.
And they do things for us.
Yes.
It's just like, you don't have to do this. But they yes, I'm not doing it because I have to, And
very much.
that really, it's a feeling of total fulfillment, regardless of whether or not we agree or disagree of certain choices that they may make. It's going back to the remembrance of looking at your parents and mimicking some of the things that they see in us, that maybe, because some things, you may think, I didn't do that right, or I didn't help them the way I should have done, or maybe I did this as fault. But that really makes me grateful.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I love that.
I like that too.
I love that.
I agree, and I've seen that too.
Love that.
Yeah, definitely.
So now it's time for us to get into the next segment of the little things. And even if you do repeat something that you have detailed before, that's okay. But what I like to do with every single one of my couples that I bring onto the podcast is focus on 3 little things that you adore, love, appreciate about your partner that they may not think is a big deal, but it means the world to you, right? Because while you guys are thinking of that, I do feel that we don't give ourselves enough opportunities to even let our spouse know what those little things do for us and mean to us, right? But it sometimes it becomes the 1, 2, 3, however many the list can build to. Those are the things that keep you almost in love with that person, keeps you grounded in your relationship, in your marriage. And we probably just need to be better at expressing those things, right? And also staying consistent with them as well, right? So Charles, I'll start with you. What's one little thing that Melendia has done, continues to do, or be for you that you appreciate?
One thing, over the years, I've watched her. I listened to her express her love, for me, really. And it's like at times I'm saying, oh no, it can't be, no. But yeah, she's been consistent with that to the point where I guess she's probably made some of her friends probably say, I wish she'd shut up about him. Really seriously. Yeah, and I know probably some of them told you, why are you always gotta bring him up? I appreciate that. Because again, times I've asked myself, do I deserve all this? Just like even is she for real? Like she love me? Like why you love me? I've asked myself that over the years. And I really appreciate that how she expressed her love, and at times the little things, just like we might do. I think our anniversary, we did a trip. And with that, we had both said we won't. What did we say? We're not gonna be getting each other any gifts, right? Mm-hmm. We're gonna make this trip. And then what you did, she reached out and buy me some belts, and I just put this on. This is the first time. This is my second day wearing this. You might never saw me wear it. I wore it yesterday. I took it out because my other belt broke that I been wearing. I said, now I got to pull these new belts out and wear. And I said, you know what? As I was putting this belt together, I said yesterday, look, these are little things that she's doing. And I said, we said we we're going to get each other, and this is what she do. She helped me on this. Though not a big thing, but yet the fact that she still went ahead and did that for me. I don't know what I did. What I do. I was meaning to get you something because I say, she's not going to do that to me.
Right.
But anyway, those little things. And then too, as I mentioned too, with how she takes care of herself, I really appreciate that. How she does with the house. Cleaning is a big portion, to keep things right. And I know I guess I show my appreciation by I'm going to say this, and please don't take what I'm saying and use this. But I help her to do the job she likes to do more when it comes to cleaning and organizing. So I know, I'm not the most organized.
Right.
And that's the thing. And I do appreciate her, and I tell her I do. I really do, and I like that that much. So these are just some of the things that I do.
All right. So Charles led us with two.
Was that two?
Yeah. We'll get to the third one. We'll get Melendia a shot at hers. So Melendia, what are a couple little things that Charles has done over the years that you really do appreciate and love that he does that he may not even notice?
I can say he is really, really attentive to my mom.
Ooh.
And he's always been concerned about my mother. And it's not like, it's not a little thing, but it is that piece that is just, and my mom has even said, I just, even the last big thing, but yet it was, he had to think about it. But then it's when we are preparing dinner, which one of the other things, he cooks very well.
Okay, all right.
It's not a little thing. It is a grateful thing. He's the one that cooks. But and when I went away, when he cooked, because I had to go away from my best friend's mom passing, he makes sure you take care of my mom. He brings her dinner over there, and he is the jack of all trades. That is the second or third, maybe I'm not really sure I am. He will try to fix anything. Some things I want him just to throw it away.
Right.
He will. No, I think we can fix this. So so he goes over there. My mom's got something that's out of whack. He will take care of it with no thought. It's just, and sometimes I want him to wind it down and let him know you it's only one of you.
Right. Yeah.
So those particular things really, it really does something to me as far as, knowing back to his genuine, nurturing side of loving the ones that I love as well, so.
Especially the fact that your mom is everything for you. I could see why that has such an impact, right? Then jack of all trades. Elaborate more on the cooking, and that'll be your 3.
There's times in our growing up together, and I look in there and be like, it is nothing in here to eat. I go upstairs, take a shower, and he got a whole meal of something that I'm like, and it could be something so simple, but he made it so extravagant. It's just salmon cakes or something with vegetarian beans and something, and it was so he can cook the most simple, and then he's got this cheesecake he's known for. It's just his cooking, and that's not to say I can't cook, y'all, but I'm just saying that he has been the one that cooks, and that really, and for the family, for the kids as they grew up, Dad took care of that.
Love that. All right, Charles, you got one more, brother.
Wait a minute.
Did you do 3?
I think I did 3. I did.
What was your 3?
Okay. I talked about you take your self-care, and then the cleaning part, how you express your love for me. I actually did 4, and then the gifts.
Yes. Okay. Yes, you did. I appreciate that. All right, cool beans. So, what I like to do is wrap up our conversation with what I like to detail as the Virgo's view. So for me, throughout my relationship with my wife, she was the one in the astrology space, right? And with that, I always knew, with my birthday being the day before Beyonce, as she would say, I just knew that I was a Virgo and didn't know anything else after that, right? But with her focus on that and her knowledge and expertise, it taught me a lot about myself, right? And I got to learn more of why I am the way that I am. And one of the things that she used to harp on is like, you're always focusing on the little things. The details, all the details matter to you, right? And that's why this podcast has come to fruition, because it's just natural for me, right? But one of the things I also found out about myself, especially in college, but mainly in all of my schooling, is I like to pay attention to conversations and actively listen, and what I have learned, throughout our time together today, starting from you guys' beginnings, the friendship, and how important that was for you two, on how you maintained said friendship, how intentional you were, given the time in your life as well, being fresh out of high school and not that far away out of high school, and just being, young adults, ready to explore the world. You found a person that just stood out to you, and you wanted to do whatever it took to keep them in your life. And I think that says a lot, the importance of that friendship and what it can do for a relationship, not just an intimate relationship, but just in relationships overall. I think a lot of folks can, definitely take that away as far as an example to look forward to utilizing in their own space in whatever way that they need to. Because, obviously the way we communicate has definitely changed over the years, but the preface still remain the same. It's very important to be transparent, to be honest, from the get-go. Right? And I think you guys definitely displayed that and detailed that for us, and that I appreciate, because it's something that I also feel is very important. When you're cultivating a relationship with someone that you plan to spend the rest of your life with, right? Well, another thing that I also appreciated within both of your stories is the fact that you allowed each other to still be your individual selves. And you also created a space where each of you can grow as individuals before you even came together as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we all miss those opportunities as well, right? You know, there's a lot of narratives out there that when you become, you know, a couple,
Mm-hmm.
that you lose yourself.
Yes.
You lose your own
Yeah.
identity. And I find that to be false.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
It's going to evolve. It's going to look
Yes.
different.
Right.
It's going to sound different.
Sure. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're still being you.
Yes. Definitely.
But you're just being you with somebody.
Yes. Sir.
Right?
Yes.
So I think the opportunity that any of our listeners to this conversation can take away from that is you can still be you.
Yes.
You can still be you.
Absolutely. Yes.
While being a husband, while
Yes.
being a wife, while being a friend.
That's right.
Right? And that's utterly important, especially in today's day and age,
Yes.
and in the relationship space.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I think that's a giveaway on you picking the right person. Because if that person allows you to do that,
Yes.
to get that self-care, to find God,
Mm-hmm.
to find yourself,
Mm-hmm.
to heal
Yes.
from past traumas,
Mm-hmm.
when you have somebody that is highlighting those things for you,
Mm-hmm.
that lets you know you're onto something,
Yes.
right? And the fact that you also did not allow overthinking to make that look like a red flag.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
Because there's a lot of conversations today that
Yeah.
turns those green
Yes.
flags into red flags,
Yes.
and to me, that's
Mhm.
just showing how folks have the wrong perspective. Certain things
Mm-hmm.
that could be a strength of someone, and you're trying to turn it into a weakness.
Yes. Right.
I don't think that's fair,
Right.
right?
Definitely.
And I appreciate the fact that you guys didn't allow that to happen, right? Is not even to go down a religious path, but the fact that you both allowed your belief in a higher power to come to bring you guys even closer together.
Yes.
So that way you were aligned on the same path, on the same mindset, on the same mission,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, to accomplish a lifestyle that suits you both.
Yes. Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I think that's another thing that, you know, couldn't kind of get lost in translation a little bit, is just not allowing that space and that time for those things to take place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so whatever it is that you guys believe in, if it's being done together,
Mm-hmm.
I think it just allows it to become stronger.
Sure. Right. Mm-hmm.
Right? Then, you know, we get to the space of becoming parents. Man. And I know I already said it, but, you know, for those that may have missed it, you know, you're listening to this with a lot of distractions or things going on, you might want to rewind back to that chapter of the conversation, because I think you guys created a blueprint, in my opinion, on what it takes from both parties to become stronger parents and even stronger couples. And it's all about the communication. The transparency that you both had with one another, and the trust that you had, and the belief that you had, that you knew no matter what was going on, you had each other's back.
Mm-hmm.
And you shared the same exact vision of being parents. Whether it's one child, two children, or whatever the number looks like. There's balance. There's commitment. Right? There's support that is within your relationship, within your household, within your marriage, that neither one of you are doing this solo.
Right.
That you can be very, very brutally honest with how you feel, and tap in to the tears if they need to be there.
Sure.
Because I think that's something that we probably don't do as well as couples. Is, you know, allowing the emotions to happen. You know, and we mentioned this throughout the conversation, is, you know, specifically to the men, it is okay to share those type of feelings with your wife.
Absolutely.
It is okay to shed the tears if they want to come.
Yes. Right.
right? Because there's also the narratives out there that men don't have those type of emotions, and that's far from the truth.
Absolutely. Right.
It's just that society has created this narrative that, and Charles, you definitely explained that. That's how the upbringing was. That man gotta be tough.
Yes.
Men can't cry, shouldn't cry.
Weakness.
Weakness.
That's strength, brother.
There's strength in those tears.
Yes.
Right? Because you're tapping into a deeper side of yourself.
Yes.
That most people don't allow you to have or to show. Right? And then for you to find someone that you feel safe to do so with is very important as well. Right? The fact that you guys really embrace each other's love in many different ways, even probably ways that you even didn't get a chance to detail to us today. But it's evident. We've been sitting here for quite some time now, and the fact that you guys have continuously held hands is something that I personally appreciate, because that's a love language that, again, in some cases, and Charles, you explained it as well, there's some type of shaming that happens when you kind of show that type of affection, and express that love language in public.
Sure.
Right? But to me, it just shows a deep connection. It shows an understanding that I am here for you in the good, the bad, and the indifferent.
Yes.
And I hope that, folks that have, taken this journey with us through this conversation, they can see that and also apply that in whatever way that fits them.
Yes.
Because not everything is for everybody, right?
So
and the ranking of love languages is going to fall different for most.
Yes.
But it's not saying that it's less important.
That's right.
Right? So I think that is something that I hope is another takeaway for especially the couples that are in that 5-10 year window, when things are unpacking, about one another. Just understand that you have an example here of what 47 years together looks like, of what 40 years of marriage looks like, right? And Charles, you said something that I'll probably close out with when you detailed you guys' challenge with Darren's birth, of just wanting to be there and be that example, be that something for somebody, because it was something that you wish you had when you guys were going through your own challenge, and you just wanted to make sure that nobody had the thought process or the mentality that they were doing it alone. So for me, the reason I am doing this podcast is very similar.
Yes.
I would hate for a couple to have to be separated by death and not get the opportunity to remember the little things, appreciate the love, and have the gratitude for their partner, regardless of how long they are together.
Yes, sir.
Right? Because for me, I am in this space, in this season of my life of, not having my wife Davina with me today. But I am doing so without any regrets. Why? Because of the things that you guys just displayed to us today. Of appreciating a friendship, allowing each other to grow as individuals that created a bond together.
Yes.
You then just changed the dynamic by getting married, but it didn't change the foundation of your relationship. You became parents together, you grew together, you cried together, you laughed together, and you appreciate all of the little things and the moments you have shared together, because that is something that I did.
Yes. Right.
And I was very intentional about that. And I gave my wife everything that I had on a daily basis, which is why I know that she can continually rest in peace knowing that her husband did everything that he could to show her how much he appreciated and enjoyed the time that we had together.
Brother, you again touched me with that. So excuse me for interrupting you. I'm just
No,
letting you
you're
know
good.
that is the moment. And when I heard you say that, when we first sat down last time, you sparked some things in me that I'm now sharing with other people. Because again, to hear that, I'm like, oh Lord, really, I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for, that added point, because that's the reason why Love in the Details exists.
Yes, sir.
Right? I really want the folks who are married to understand your love can be shown even deeper on a daily basis, and it doesn't need the grand things. Like, you detailing how important that belt that you are wearing right now. It's a small thing.
Yeah, right.
You didn't think it was anything major.
Right.
When you just said, hey, you know what? Charles might need this one day. He might not need it right now, but I'm going to get him a belt even though we decided that we wasn't doing gifts. Right? But it's the appreciation that's behind it. That is something that, even though it's a material thing, right? And even in the religious sense, we're not supposed to worship those, material things.
Right.
But it doesn't say that we can't appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Right? And what it can do, again, for the way that you view your wife and how you love your wife, because your wife is attentive to your needs, right? Those are the things that we need to appreciate. Because those are the things that we're going to hold on to as beautiful memories. Like how I am right now. Those are the things I get to smile about. Right? Because not only did I appreciate those things while grieving, I appreciated them when my wife was here.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
And I told her why when I said thank you.
Yeah.
And gave the details in that thank you as well. So that way she knew, like, okay, it wasn't a big deal, but he just made it a big deal.
Right.
But I am grateful that he made it a big deal.
Yes.
Right.
So the more that we get to do that, the less guilt and regret that we have later on down the road.
Yes, sir. Right.
So Charles and Melendia, I am very grateful for this conversation. Again, their link to their channel, Just Keeping It Real, is going to be in the description box below. So definitely check them out. Also give them a like, a subscription, a sharing of their conversations, because I can tell you as a subscribed member of their channel, there's a lot of things that you can take away from a lot of their conversations. And I think there's going to be some wisdom in there for those of you who are aspiring and working towards getting to year 40, like they just celebrated earlier this year. So again, I thank you guys for being here.
Yes.
I thank you, Lovebirds, for joining us as well
Thank you.
Right.
on Love in the Details. So I'll see you on the next one.
All right.
Take care. Keep loving.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in, Lovebirds. Remember, love shines brightest in the little things. We'll see you next time on Love in the Details.